So on its own, I felt like the season was able to accomplish everything that it needed to do, and that wasn't particularly easy because they had two less episodes, which I'm disappointed by. I think that this really did deserve those extra two episodes. And then having to deal with Corey passing, and Finn was supposed to be a very prominent character in this season. Wasn't really able to figure out how prominent he was supposed to be, but that doesn't really matter that much. So having to contend with those two issues, I applaud it for what they were able to accomplish. They accomplished a lot, but here's the problem. If you look at it through the other lens, looking at it as one chapter in the big overarching story arc of this show, in many ways it feels like a huge slap in the face. And they managed to accomplish that for the people in both cities. How the hell could you manage to accomplish that? Okay, so, first talking about the remaining members of New Directions finishing out the school year. The original New Directions, I should add. Well, I do like that the network wisely chose to only keep that storyline going for the first 2/3 of the season. Now, that was definitely the right move because you gotta remember they got to March or April of the previous school year, so you've only got a few months left to work with. That's not enough time to just go from the period after regionals to the end of the school year. So wrapping it up in that matter, that was good. But even though this was supposed to be do or die for New Directions for the third time in 4 school years, because for the first 2 years they had to do well at regionals, though Sue took pity on them in season 1. And she kind of again does here, but when it ended, it didn't carry the dread that it should have, because this is where having 2 different TV shows would have helped, because then we would have been focused on the Mr. Shoes storyline, because in Lima it is Mr. Shoes' story now. That's not to say that you don't have individual story arcs, but broadly speaking, it is about Mr. Shoe conducting the show choir on that side of things. You would have been able to devote more time to have him raise the stakes, overcome the obstacles, and then you fall just short. Because if you're the previous reigning champions and then you come out as runner-ups, it stings even worse. The fact that you went the distance again and then right at the end. Because even though they try to show the line of we had 15 opponents and we beat out all but one of them on paper that does mean something, but when it's literally all or nothing, it's supposed to sting. And now it's, oh, Sue, now that she's principal, which she got into way too easily, even though we knew that she'd have to come back to McKinley, because without her there, Lima is just people doing things in high school and singing songs. Both of those things have been done to death in this show. There's only so much you can do that, you know. So it was supposed to mean something, but then when it didn't happen, it was like, oh, that's disappointing, but because the school year is just about over for all of them, and even then, Sue is saying to Mr. Shu, you did great. You dragged this fight out for 4 years, and even then, you still almost did it. Even with me doing everything I could to undermine you. I've been working for a worthy adversary. You did good. And also the fact that you know that all the juniors from season 3 are now graduating, so that it's just the newbies, except for maybe Unique. I can't remember what grade she's in, that are leaving. It doesn't feel like that much of a bummer. When I watched season 1, it felt like a bummer. Or, although, granted, I knew that that was because there was going to be a little bit more, so I'm like, what's going to happen now? And so you get Deus Ex Machina, but here, you knew Deus Ex Machina was not going to happen. You kind of had that with the April Rhodes storyline, which was appropriate to resolve a continuity error, but the way that you resolve that, it was really stupid in my mind. And then, owing to the fact that the last third of the season is entirely in New York, except for having Mr. Shu and Emma having a baby, which honestly was more to mark real life time progression. Once you do that, all of a sudden it feels like a huge slap in the face to the new characters. You know, because like, Kitty, you know, I was not expecting them to do really anything with the character, but then giving her that relationship arc with Artie and her actually being the one to come public despite initially not being sure of herself, and then you realize, holy crap, she's serious about this, and, you know, Artie is getting another love interest, you know, for real this time after a season plus hiatus. Whoa. That was good, but yeah, if there's no Glee Club, then she's just another Santana in essence. So yeah, but it's just the moment to leave her in the dust like that, and then like how you go all through that dynamic of Marley trying to decide between Jake and Ryder, how she basically ends up switching almost at the last minute, and then how in essence neither of them really end up with her. It was like, why did you even bother taking us through all that? She did say in season 4, okay, I don't know if I really want to do stage. I kind of wanted to sing on the radio. What? Okay, but that's a way to distinguish the character, and it also gives you a way out with all that. But just, in many ways now I'm thinking, why did you even bother with continuing the Ohio bits and trying to age up the Glee people, the new people? It felt like kind of a waste. And also unique, and her battle to get to, you know, do the use the bathroom that she wants to use. The payout of that was extremely weak. Yes, it's because of the real life issue going on and how that ultimately ended up not coming out as a strong payout, even though that case actually ended in 2017. Yeah. But, yeah. Yeah, you had some good potential with that, and then you just ignored them at the end, not even having them graduate. You had Becky freaking graduate before they did. Now, maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe a couple of them did actually finish, but I could have sworn that, at best, all these other people were juniors, except for maybe Unique. I can't remember. But it honestly felt like that this show's writers wanted to just finish up that school year and then just get us to New York so it could feel like just one TV show again. But then why did you even go through all that effort in season 4 of trying to balance both things and just... And you gotta remember something, okay? I subtly gave you the impression that I was far more interested in what they were doing in New York than Ohio, even though I said that the Ohio alone episodes of season 4 were the best episodes of the season, and I still stand by that. But seeing that you just did this and then just ignore everybody that was introduced after season 2... Because, you know, Joe, Sugar, and Rory, and Unique, they all only came into the picture in season 3, so even though Wikipedia says season 3 cast, really it's season 2. Minus Lauren, but I think we all knew that Lauren wasn't going to be sticking around. But, it just felt wrong with what the writers did there. Even though this is the cast that I wanted to focus on. Just, yeah. So the letdown of all that was bad, even though there were some nice things that they did, because, like, the Christmas special stuff, I laughed at most of it. It felt kind of out of character for the show, but not hugely, you know. They played up some of the earlier stereotypes of the show, and, you know, I enjoyed that. It's not too much different than an R-rated comedy, just without the sex and bathroom jokes. Because if you eliminate those two kinds of jokes, then I'd love most R-rated comedies, but those are the reasons why they're all in the first place. Right. And then the quarterback and the 100th episode, I felt like that those were really nice episodes. You had to address the elephant in the room dealing with Finn, so they did what was a really nice tribute to him, showing so many people struggling with the deaf in many ways, subtly showing you how the show would have ended. And based on from what I can tell, it seemed like that this show had long been pitched as ending with the 6th season, somewhere around the filming of season 4, even before Finn passed. It hadn't been set in stone, but that was what they wanted to get to, and then Corey Dine made that basically official. Yeah. Diana not being there for the quarterback episode, even though everything I've read indicates that she was available. She actually spoke on that issue a couple of years back, illustrating that there wasn't any beef between her or anyone. Because, like, yeah, if you look at the behind-the-scenes pictures for the 100th episode, there was nothing between her and Leah at all. Then as for the producers, Diana mentions it in the interview that I'll link down below. Read it, if you haven't already. Right. So I had to address that. Then the 100th episode, yeah, a nice little reunion for everybody there. A nice way to have old meet new again, to have all of the original New Directions bit finish their bits. And it was nice to see familiar faces, and a good way to reintroduce Mercedes, which I was not expecting at all. Good job on that. Quinn ending up with Puck, because obviously I gotta address that. Well, I do like that they gave her a better fate than what was going on in season 4, but you gotta remember, only a few months have passed from both, the Valentine's Day Quintana bit and the quarterback. Now, granted, that is technically enough time for Puck to get through boot camp, basic training, whatever you want to call it, but going through that whole process, that's creating continuity errors that you can't ignore, writers, and it also assumes that he got through everything and then shipped out within probably a couple of weeks, wasn't held back at basic training at all. That can happen, and then he has a break long enough for him to come back and do all that, but I don't think that you get issued a uniform like that right after to the basic training. Maybe you do, I don't know. But I don't think that was enough time for both Quinn and Puck to have gone through their little bits, and them ending up together, that's more of the writers just trying to pick on the bits that they thrust into the end of season 3. They go, ah ha ha, Quinn's in a good place now, she's with Puck, the love of her life, yay! It's so obvious that that's what that was. Diana wanted to do other projects. I'm fine with that. But it's just the writers just trying to shoehorn stuff, not knowing what to do with the character anymore, even though you could have just wrote her like you do with Mike, being, you know, a helping hand. Does that ever occur to you? Did that ever just occur to you, writers? Okay? And now it also means that what you did with last season was just something that you were just trying to do with Diana. Just make something up and just do all this. Ah ha ha ha. Oh, you're just pissed that Quinn didn't end up with Rachel because you shipped that. if it makes sense, then I'm okay with couples coming together when it's not the combination that I want. Lost Girl wasn't the combination that I wanted after I ironically got together, and I stopped wanting to be together, but it made sense. I saw it coming a mile away the first time I watched the final season, and I was right. It made sense. This, it only makes sense because they set up a loophole for them to be together. Because, like, I've read the Fabari fanfiction, should have asked for directions, even though I'm not that big of a fan of that fan fiction. Let's not go into that tangent. But there's a bit in the story where, spoiler alert, though I bet most of you have either read the fanfiction or don't care. There's a bit where 80% of the way through the fanfiction, Puck comes to Quinn, like he did in Season 3, and says, "You need to get off your ass. You've been a problem for forever. Don't do this to yourself." And he ends up revealing that he's in love with her, but knows that his chance at her was years ago, and that he lost that chance. And Quinn realizes, like with, somebody who falls in love with both a vampire and a werewolf in the third book, hint hint, Quinn realizes that she loves Puck as well, but again, it's too late to go down that route. But I believed it. And I've read plenty of other fanfictions where it's clear that Puck has feelings for Quinn, but chooses to put his feelings aside in order to help Quinn get with the person that she actually wants to be with. You know it's bad when people that are just fans of the show and are just making up stories are able to make a much more believable Quinn and Puck relationship than what this show was able to accomplish. Oh, no, yes. Okay, that was a horrible phrasing. They did set up the potential for these two to do something if they change substantially enough. And the writers are just trying to do, yeah, they've had like a year. Here's your change. Ha ha. No. They did basically nothing for 2/3 of that time. And then you just expect everything to be all hunky-dory in just a few months? Bad. And honestly, why are so many people so desperate to find love when you're just that age, okay? Longer life expectancy and changing economic standing of Western countries. It's not just the U.S., it's all Western countries that at least speak English. People wait longer and longer to find romance and get married. You want to know how many times I dated when I was in high school? Because I knew I wasn't ready. Yeah. Yeah, it's just astonishing how quickly these people want to find love and do all that stuff. But it does bring up an interesting message, especially with the Coach and Blaine plot that occurs in the back end of this season. It's not falling in love that matters, it's the staying in love that matters, which is what Should Have Asked for Directions tries to make clear to you. They fall in love in just the first couple of chapters. It's the staying in love that was tough. Yeah. So that's why, even though I felt like there was some redundancy with them having issues here, at the same time there is merit to it. Same thing with Sam and Mercedes, and I love how differently they try to characterize their issues here. There's undertones of it that are the same as like Season 3, okay? But both of them wanted to work, then they realized that there's an issue that they're not going to really be able to overcome, but because they know it's going to hurt less if they break up and try and reestablish things. There was no good solution for them, so they mutually, although at the same time separately, came to the conclusion that this was the best thing to do. They hated it. They hated every moment of it. It was the right thing to do, given their situation. That was tough. Right. Yeah. So getting to the tail end, a lot of what they did there was great, and while I know that the behind-the-scenes reasons for Rachel and Santana having their fallout in episode 9-ish of this season were hella stupid. The actual doing it in the show and then how they come together through spread out bits in the 100th episode and then the of the show and then like the 18th episode of this season, that's all done well, but in many ways it's like, then why did you even have Santana move in if she was just going to leave a few months later on the show, even though she was actually there in New York for, let's see here, so it happens like in episode 9 of this season, and then she moved in after I do, like episode 15 or 16, so it's a little over half a season, so, yeah. A nice progression, but it has a little bit of the why did you bother bit, unfortunately. And then the end of the season with Rachel deciding to sacrifice her dream, although she doesn't really pitch it that way, and instead explore other options in the industry. Well, here's the problem with that. One, she goes from getting her role to ending in just 2.5 episodes or something like that. Even though I bet that even if this season had gotten those remaining 2 episodes, it would have been about the same amount of time. It's just dumb. Now, she has been on the show for a bit, but they gave the impression that it was only a few months in universe time. For us watching it, obviously, it was just a few weeks. And that to me is dumb. Now, had they advanced the show by like another year in universe, I might have bought it, okay? Because I can see Rachel deciding to do that after she's been Fanny for a couple of years, but only being Fanny for a few months. It seems like that was bad, okay? Hey, now they try to pitch it as, oh, she's ambitious, so she's going to keep trying to... No. All that effort that she was doing for seasons 3 and 4 to get on the stage, and then she abandons the stage really quickly, all because she's being selfish. Come on. All that effort for, let's face it, your most prominent student character, and the whole reason we were even in New York in the first place? Kurt was supporting character in season 4. Once he and Blaine get together, he gets elevated in importance to where Rachel was, okay? At the cost of Santana, unfortunately, but yeah. Oh yeah, and then there's the fact that Brittany wasn't around. Well, I think, again, either Heather was busy with all the practices, or she might have been pregnant. I swear I read that she got pregnant during some portion of the show. I swear I did. So, that explains why Brittany isn't there, and... yeah. Oh, and Santana's storyline with Demi, well... everyone knew in advance, apparently, that she was only going to be there for a set number of episodes, so you knew that they were going to break up, but then because Demi had to go do something in real life, they had to cancel her bit early, so they break off screen, it seems, which is why the Pamela Lansbury band ends kinda abruptly, and we don't really get a real send-off to Elliot, which I think is kinda dumb, especially after all the effort he worked to get in that band, but, actually, was he playing video games with, Blaine and Sam there? He might have been. I just, yeah, this show is getting to the point now where I'm like, I want to be done with it. Okay? Because those good bits, but again, I keep focusing on the bad stuff. And, yeah. Just, Rachel, why did you have to do that? You finally got what you wanted in the show, even though Leah did obviously get Fanny in real life after the pandemic. Great job, Leah. I cannot tell you how happy I was to hear that she actually did do that. Heck, I bet that's actually part of the reason why I got the desire to start watching the show again a decade after I stopped. But yeah, and like just the ending of it, just this did not feel like a season finale. It just felt like, yeah, we're gonna end this little bit, then make sure you come back and just. Yeah, okay, so this came out bad, I freely admit. Don't care. Gonna put this up. And I don't want these videos to turn out this way, okay? But again, I don't sugarcoat. If I think there's problems, I'm gonna bleeding well address them. And I want to like this show way better than I do, but even back in the day, when I was watching this for the first time, I was thinking that I like fan fiction better than the show, and it's a bummer that I'm proving to be right. Oh, and, no, this isn't a bootleg. Seasons 5 and 6 were released on Blu-ray in Japan, but since Amazon Japan doesn't really send to the US, you gotta go onto eBay and find people that are willing to ship it to you. And yes, it's eBay US, okay? I got both of this in Season 6 from eBay US. You gotta pay a pretty penny, but they're there.